I'm Tyler Caskey, a partner at the Bean Counters. Our business helps people take the risk out of changing systems. We've got about a team of 8, soon to be 9, in Sydney. And, most of us are accountants. There's a few ex-CFOs, but we've also got some Power BI programmers and, a few system engineers. And yeah, we really try to play in that niche space between like clients and their accountants to make sure that everything kind of goes smooth in the system side.
Yeah, great. And so how long has Bean Counters been around?
We opened officially in February 2021, so 3 and a bit years. And we started just myself and one employee and an industrial engineer who was a bit of a weapon at systems and Power BI and all those fun things, with a real bent towards, like, we really like helping the accounting profession. Probably half of our work is accounting firms and the other half of the work would be, businesses or accountants within business, like CFOs, finance managers, bookkeepers.
Yeah. And then if you started that long ago, how soon after starting did you start putting your face to the brand? When did Tyler become, or has it always been the Tyler Show as well as Bean Counters?
Yeah, man, it's been an evolution. So I've thought about this branding side for a while, and I probably should answer the first question a bit better. Is my background was like Big Four, like KPMG and Deloitte and business services and a little bit of audit and some standard advice. So right from like one-man bands or one-person bands all the way up to listed mining companies. After that, I moved into like law firms and then into a bunch of kind of CFO roles, and then again like a tax and partnership role between doing this. And I've always had a LinkedIn presence. As soon as LinkedIn came up, I've always been really interested in that. I've always been really big on groups and social groups and how they worked, and I really love the flow of that. So when I saw like LinkedIn started to create some actual valuable content for me, like I was reading things about, I think about a guy named Jason Andrews who does, financial statement breakdowns of businesses and what they mean and what they couldn't mean.
Yeah.
There's the guy who started Medano. I can't remember his name at the moment, but he does like amazing insights into businesses. So I started to see founder-led content or partner-led content about it. And, when I was a CFO, I was really active on LinkedIn about hiring staff. So I've always been really big on people having a strong professional profile. I knew that LinkedIn was going to get rid of, the PDF version and cover letters and all that type of stuff. Like those will die. I mean, they should have died 5 years ago in my
Absolutely.
opinion. Yeah. Like
PDF should have died that many years ago.
Yeah.
Not just the resume. Yeah.
Exactly. And so like I've always been big on having a strong professional profile and, engaging in the community, for your benefit or for other people's benefits. And, anytime I hired someone, I did no seek advertising. I only did it on LinkedIn because I wanted people that understood that professional profile is an important play. And so I really got heavy into LinkedIn from hiring as the play. And then I really started to look at the people that did it well and how they did their profiles and what jobs they made, how they I suppose spoke about their jobs. I'll give you like a really easy example is, when someone lists a job, I was working with an accountant yesterday because I do a bit of I help some unemployed accountants get jobs is probably the best way to put it. She worked for Fidelity, right? And she was a member of like a Indian, so she was a member of an Indian professional accounting body, but like didn't spell it out really well. So I was like, make people not guess about what your qualifications and what your jobs were. So like Fidelity is this business, it was this many revenue, this many staff, here were my responsibilities. And so I started to see the strength of personal branding, and then I started to see the strength of company branding, and then I saw the twist. I saw company branding had a peak, and then it faded, and then I saw personal branding keep going stronger and stronger. So yeah, I just really launched into LinkedIn as a side hobby, just, I don't know, writing some content that my brain needed to get out. I think more as personal therapy than anything else.
Yeah. And so in the early days, what kind of content, one, were you writing, and when was the first time you saw something kind of kick off and have some legs?
Yeah. It's really interesting, that question. So I started doing heavy content when I was a CFO, because, I always asked people about, hey, have you used this app? Has anyone, tried this bank? Has anyone got like a cool payroll system that they're recommending? So I used the community a lot. And what I found was, questions were really good, but then every now and then, like, something frustrated me at work. Like, I wrote about how two systems didn't integrate once, and they were Microsoft systems. And I was like, this should be easy, right? Like, but now they do integrate. But I started writing back in like 2017, 2018 about like integrations and pain points. And I noticed that it was really common in the accounting world that people had these frustrations, but they would be quiet. And what I felt in my soul was that there's a whole bunch of accountants that we're really scared to post online because we've got like an opinion that, sometimes we should be quiet introverts that don't have too many opinions. And I've had CEOs tap me on the shoulder and be like, hey, there's enough communication, don't do this type of stuff. And and I was like, man, it's because you're a low communication, low tell, smoke and mirrors person, right? Just be honest, be upfront, be truthful. And so I really found that people resonate with honesty, integrity, good chats, open kind of banter, as in a professional manner as well. Very different to like the Facebook and Instagram groups. But
yeah, sure.
That in the CFO world was something I started to see. And then when I got out of, like, I was in a partnership called Rothsay, which is now Incorp Advisory, and I was a salary partner. There were two owning partners, so I was very careful about what I posted there because, like, their logo was against my name. And so when I opened the business, I just had a bunch of like frustrations that I wanted to talk about. And about once a week when I was sitting at the beach or drinking a coffee, I don't know, something came on my mind, and I'd just pick a photo or pick a video and post it and have a go. And in 2021, a few of them like hit, one about the big four, and one, actually, I think the first one was about like cleaning up your IT systems, and about the best value you can have as an accountant is like not being a tight ass on your IT budget. And honestly, like, so many people resonated with it because there were so many accountants that were being tight asses. And then all the ones that weren't were like, yeah, like, we come into businesses and everyone's got like, cords all over the place, and there's like printers that don't work. And I just really found that there was a niche there of being able to resonate with people about your business.
So it's saying the quiet part out loud. It's the say what people are thinking but not saying. Is that kind of the secret sauce?
Yeah. And like, I try not to put too much structure to it. Like, I've taken from two models on social media. This is probably giving away the secret sauce, but it is what it is. There's a guy named James Smith who's a PT who's very big on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok, and he has talked a lot in the PT market and nutrition market about like what's bullshit and what's not, right? And how you've got to be careful about if like a personal trainer is sponsored by a certain brand or a certain thing, they'll be like, hey, you should use this brand. It's not authentic. So I'm very careful about, we don't have any commissions, we don't have any sponsorships, anything like that. And so I learned there that agnostic, honest, high integrity, speech was the key, and not being bound by any company was really important. And then there's a second one, which is, this is a deep cut, but there's a TikTok account called Strawberry Milk Mob, and it's a bikini brand out of Toronto. I think it's Vancouver or Toronto, Canada, run by a sister with two younger sisters. And she plays what's called a 40-1 and 4-1 model. So she does 40 posts, which are value posts, or hers are funny posts. And she started with the number 12 reason why I love men, right? And when she says love, she's like, it's a joke, right? Like, she's like,
sure.
They're so quick to get ready, but really all they need to get ready is a pair of shorts and a shirt, and they didn't even iron the shirt, like, it's kind of jokes.
Yeah, sure, yeah.
And then one of her posts she does, oh, by the way, we sell bikinis. And I was like,
40-1. It's a huge ratio difference.
I'm telling you, if anyone wants a laugh, but also the cleanest social media strategy I've seen in the last 5 years is Strawberry Milk Mob. Check out her sisters, Blueberry Milk Mob, and one other coconut Milk Mob.
Right.
Their bikini brand's called Milk Mob, I think. And so she does that, and then she also does a 4-to-1 session sometimes, which is a 4 values with a sneaky sales pitch in there.
Okay.
So we've kind of adapted the same process, which is no one on LinkedIn wants to hear, hey, Tyler does system change. Tyler's like really good at fixing your zero file. Hey, do you want to move from system A to system B? Talk to Tyler, right? After a while, you'll get down to 2 likes and everyone's just like, you're just noise, go away.
Yeah.
So you have to think about the end user, not yourself, right? You have to focus on social media platforms about how, and branding about how you're helping others. And that's what Strawberry Milk Mob did, is she focused on hilarity and jokes. And like some of her stuff, I'm talking millions and millions of likes.
Wow.
And then it's, her first bikini one was like, oh, by the way, we also sell bikinis. A couple of days sold out. And it's because you buy from people you like and trust and resonate with. You do not buy from a brand.
Yeah.
And that change in social media has probably been my most exciting movement of, founder-led content. But it's not founder-led content that is, I'm Tyler and I sell. It is founder-led content of, here's how I can help you. And also, here's some value on the side.
Yeah. What I really like about that 40-1 model is not only is it really showcase, hey, stop selling yourself, but it also sets a really insanely high target of like, if you want to sell yourself, where are your 40 posts? What are you doing about those 40 posts? Get them done first, ship some value, build community, and hopefully engagement at the same time before you have earned the right to start selling yourself.
Yeah. That is the essence of sales and finance for me, is you've got two to three sales in accounting. Like if I come back to if I use like an accounting partner in a business, you're either a technical expert and people come to you when they've got like a big problem. You're either got compliance, and you're known for reliable compliance at a, relatively fair price. And then also you're in that advisory capacity where you are helping someone go through a growth phase or a change phase or a restructure, some of those kind of, funky things. And the way to sell compliance is, very typical. Like it's a volume game and a quality game, right? So lots of leads, qualify the leads, pick the ones that suit your business, pick the clients that resonate with you personally, and then absolutely deliver. But the third part, the advisory piece, you've got to get to the stage where you're not selling, you're solving. And I love the problem solve. So, businesses have a bunch of problems, and it might be a capacity problem, and they like, hey, I need 3 staff. It might be a technical problem. I've got we've just purchased a construction business. We need to do like a restructure, but then we also need to onboard 50 people that work in construction and they're under awards. And dear Lord, I need help with that payroll. Or the third one is I've just acquired that construction business and now I've got one company on SAP and the other company's on QuickBooks. What should I choose, right? Because both financial controllers like each system, no one wants to move, so if you focus on that, when you hear the problem, the job is not to sell, the job is to solve without selfish intent, in my opinion. If it turns into money, awesome. If it doesn't, just help them for free and help them, guide them on the process. The answer might be SAP is the way for you, go talk to an SAP consultant. But you need to listen, learn, and be, able to help people through their journey, and just with faith that the money will come if you've got the right business intent.
I really enjoy that you're talking about the kind of lead with value and it will come back to you, kind of that kind of faith in the process. However, I'm sure someone listening is saying, I don't have the time to be doing work for free, or how do I know that this will come back? Do I know this will come back? What would you say to someone who hears that and might agree that it's good advice, but can't reckon with it in their bodies to action that and live that as their truth?
Yeah. It depends on how much you want to grow. If you can't spare time to solve or sell, you're going to be in a stagnant position for a while. Your client base isn't going to change, and you might not get very interesting work, which is okay. There's no harm in being the best compliance accountant with a very steady client base and just getting basic referrals. But the real money honestly, the real challenge, I really there's moments when I see my staff get something, I've got an ability to maybe see how systems connect and what's going to happen in a project, 10, 20 steps ahead. Because I'm old and I've got a gray beard and starting to get gray hair, right? I see you've got a few as well. And for me, I love those moments when my staff figure something out and then they can apply it to the next project without me. They're like, oh, we have to do this first, then this first, because this connects to this. And, this is a high risk one. So I have to make sure this is down to the cent, where this is a low risk. So I can do this, at will, no stress, no rush. Like that moment, if you really want challenging work, high value work, high engagement work that pushes your team, gets them moving from basic compliance or basic work into high value work, you really need to start attacking the problems. And then to answer your question about time is I'm big on structuring a day where you've got the right team matrix to do this. So if you're a young partner, sometimes you can just be absolutely churned on the, doing so much compliance, so much, work that you might not, have the time to sell or take free chats. But for every free chat I take, 1 in 4 of them probably turn into a job. 1 in 10 probably turn into a big job, 50,000 to 100,000. 1 in 50 might turn into $1 million job. And so, you've just got to focus on, making sure that life and people have the ability to, come to you, ask a question, and then if you can solve it, you can solve it. If you can't, you might pass them on to another person. But overall, you're there to listen and help. And I think that resonates with people. And then I think it gets you more and more introductions. And the more you can convert into good sales, and help your team get challenging work, the happier you are, the happier the clients are. And most importantly, the happier your team are, because they're doing work that kind of excites their soul and helps them learn.
I mean, hey, that's pretty unreal ROI. 1 in 5 chats, client. You said 1 in 10 is a good client, like a large client. 1 in 50 is $1 million client. That's obviously sounds a little bit like off the top of your head kind of number. Obviously, it's not like a stat, but that's pretty profound. If you were to have 50 meetings with people and provide value 50 times, it's almost like the 40-to-1 ratio that you're talking about with the content. If you provide content 40 times in different meetings, perhaps one of them is a whale of a client, and that sets you up for the next 50. You've got time to do another 50 chats. Do you notice when you do this value exchange that there's a bit of a snowball effect of the more you do it, the more time you have to do it?
Yes. I don't feel social media pressure. I don't have a posting schedule. I don't have anyone that assists. I do our own company branding, podcast branding, personal branding kind of stuff. And I'm really careful about it, because I think it's, it's something that you need to adapt to how the market is going, what people are perceiving as high value and what they enjoy. But the thing, kind of coming back to that point about the close ratio, I'm really careful about the meetings I take. If someone comes to me and they're like, hey, can I grab 15 minutes of your time to talk about outsourced bookkeeping? I'm like, no, You can't, right? And in fact, I don't say no. I'm like, oh, hey, we don't do bookkeeping, but like, what finance system are you on? Can I help change you from old system to new system? And they, as soon as I sell to a salesperson, they get pretty quiet. So I'm very careful about the meetings I take. But when I do get a meeting, because I've got an okay LinkedIn presence, like I'm not, the 100,000 like others, but like it's okay. Our conversations go really well, and people kind of know what we stand for. Sometimes they even know how we bill because the person that introduced us has maybe told them, or also I post about like we only do hourly billing in the business. Like we don't do any fixed fee, we don't do any subscriptions, we don't do any recurring work because for us it's more important to have an even, peaceful relationship where if a client wants to talk to me at 9 o'clock, the answer is 99% of the time, yes, no problem. But like you're going to get charged $500 an hour. And that's, if they're okay with it, awesome. And also for my team, I even advertise to our business that my whole team are casuals. And, everyone's casual. Plus they get a bonus if they, bill the right amount. So there's an incentive there for them to bill. And, they don't have like an 8-hour target. They don't make up any hours. They get paid for every hour they work. If they work 14 hours, they get paid for 14 hours, and then some. But if they work 2 hours, or if they work 0, they don't have to. Like I always kind of believe like in the motto of, treat people like adults and they'll behave like adults. And I think that's the best way to get results out of like intelligent, experienced workforce. And especially like we've got quite a few parents in our team, like my business partner, Dan's got a 1-year-old or just turned 1. Our other CFO, Romy, has got like 2 boys that are awesome. Sometimes they come to the office and just hang out for the day. And, like she leaves at 4 o'clock every day and she doesn't work Fridays, but if she has to work a Friday, she'll let me know about it, but she'll totally do it because she knows she's getting paid. So, I'm careful about if people want our time that they know it's going to be chargeable. But then on the sales time, it's also really important that, I focus on solving a problem and helping the business. And if it turns into work, awesome. If it doesn't, it's okay. Like sometimes I can solve something in 30 minutes for someone and they might just be like, cool, I'm off. I'll go do it myself. And I was like, yeah, man, stay in touch if you want to help. We want help.
Yeah. There's 2 things I want to touch on. You've mentioned a bit the idea of your staff being a part of this kind of journey and that it's not the Tyler show. And you mentioned your kind of journey to this personal branding idea was through building professional profiles and that LinkedIn was that kind of channel for that initially. How do you balance the Tyler of it all in being counters, and do you empower your staff to go out and build their own profiles? Is that up to them, or is it an initiative at being counters?
Yeah, that's a really interesting question, and I'll tell you a pain point, and then I'll tell you how I do it.
Yeah, great.
So what used to piss me off I was working in a design business called IA Design. Great business, private equity owned. CEO was, good sales guy. I learned a lot from him on sales, but, maybe he wasn't the best CEO for me. He used to make everyone in the business reshare the company posts after, his expensive marketing team consultants posted it, right? And he also was like really diligent that if someone didn't, he would like be on them, right? And he was like, oh, you're not, holding the company brand. And I was like, my LinkedIn is not yours, right? It is not your ownership. As a company owner, I do not own any right to say what someone needs to do or shouldn't do on their social media profile. And so I encourage my team to have free will and to do what they like, to post what they like, or to not post what they like. My business partner, Dan, is fantastic at, like, if you put him on a podcast or you put him on he does a bunch of like app webinars, because I think he and I did the maths and we've touched 350 apps in the last 3.5 years.
Wow.
Yeah. I know it's been like, it was a bit of maths to get there, but he knows so much about so many apps, right? So he doesn't share it on LinkedIn, but like if you put him on a webinar about consolidations, he can tell you I'm talking everything from every single app in detail. And I hate to say it, but it's better than me now. And so, but he'll never share it on LinkedIn because he'd rather do work and then go hang out with his son than post on social media. And I'm like, yeah, man, awesome. Like whatever works for you. What I do ask from my team is I share their LinkedIn profiles when I introduce them to staff or to clients. And so I ask them for two things: to have a reasonably professional photo, and I happily paid for a few professional photos for the team if they wanted. I asked them to have in their current occupation, like I actually give them the words for their job while working at the bean counters, and I'm like, at least as a minimum, have this, add whatever you like, right? And so that enables me to be able to share their profile. Like, I don't want them, it's okay, but I'd rather them not having a picture of them like, you know, holidaying in Queensland holding a koala bear or something, right? Like,
yeah, totally.
Just something semi-professional is all I ask. And if they do it, cool. If they don't, I'll live. But I've got no expectation on them doing that. But what I've found is the ones that like it, do it. And the ones that don't. And the ones that don't are probably better at delivery. And the ones that like it, I might be able to use in sales calls. And one of our team members, Ice-T, this morning came into a sales call about an integration between Deputy and Xero and knocked it out. She was like, yep, you do this, you do this, you do this, this won't come through. Yeah, it would probably take me about a day to fix it. But, you know, if I help with your payroll officers thing, it might take me another day. So that's it. And I was like, that's cool. Like, well done.
Do you find that there's a correlation between introverts and extroverts and social media people and non-social media people, or is it pretty all over the place?
That's an interesting one. I've seen introverts do social media and they can do it really bad. And I've probably helped maybe 20 accountants change jobs, or, you know, they're unemployed, try to get a job. And I'll just help them tidy up a LinkedIn profile. I've got 100-to-1 application ratio that I try to say is for every 100 jobs you apply for, you'll probably get one job offer is the play. You know, so it's a bit of a volume game because you need to create a network of recruiters and businesses. And so when it comes to an introvert, I can kind of spot them. Like they focus on some really niche topics that don't really have, they've got maybe importance to them, but maybe not a lot to others because they're thinking more internally than externally sometimes. And then I've worked with other extroverts that are just like, they're just reposting anything that they see and like, and it just turns into like fluff, you know, and it's happy to announce that I've done my Microsoft course. Everyone's like, cool. Like, you know, anything that's self-involved on an extrovert, people sniff out and like just scroll over pretty quick.
And so if someone's listening and they fall into either of those camps, introvert, extrovert, and they've identified that, hey, perhaps this is something I'm looking to do. This personal branding thing, thought leadership, whatever you want to call it. I see that there's a benefit here. How might you recommend they start that? What's the 30, 60, 90 of doing personal branding for someone who it might not come natural to them, it might come natural to them. They've identified there's a need and a potential there, but they've not done it before. How do we?
I love that question. I might charge you $1,000 for this answer, but we'll see. Depends how long this podcast goes.
Great. I'll send you the bill.
So, send it to Trent. The first thing I do is I clean my LinkedIn profile. So I have a nice, simple photo portrait. You know, if I'm a guy, I might be in a jacket and shirt or a polo, or I don't know, whatever it is. Like, just make it nice and clean. You know, if you haven't got a banner photo, put a banner photo on it. If you're like an overseas educated person trying to find a job in Australia, put like a banner of something in Australia. It just signifies to every recruiter you're here for some reason. Like, I don't think Australia is a very racist country, but I do think we are. The job market's quite hard for people with non-Anglo-Saxon names. So I'm careful about that. I'll tidy up my tagline. You know, I'll just have it nice and simple.
What's a good tagline?
I like, mine says, partner at the bean counters. If I'm employed, I'll be, financial accountant at company ABC, or I'll be, senior systems manager, or something that someone can look at and go, Chad is head of X, right? So I try to make people not have to guess on my LinkedIn profile.
Yeah, you said that. I really like that.
And it's like when you read a CV, like we all know the ones that like, this is too long, I'm never going to read it, right? Like a LinkedIn needs to be able to be read when scanned. So then I look next at your bio. And so this is still within the 30 days. I get my bio and I need to improve mine, but like you're really talking about what you do, what you like. If you can add a little bit of non-work, something more about you as a person. I'm high ethics. I care about this. I care about the profession. I'm really passionate about crypto or whatever it is, right? Put that in. Like, don't just be like, I'm Tyler Caskey and I'm an accountant. I love numbers, right? Like that doesn't resonate. So think about a bio of a little bit of work and experience, but then maybe things you're passionate about, things like you really might enjoy. Like I like building teams. I like getting high performance environments. And then I scroll down to experience and I make sure every single one of my companies I work for has a logo. I explain what each of my companies are. I make sure I've got proper dates in there. If I've got a big career break, especially if I'm looking for a new job, I'll literally put in like career break, in there. If it's within, the last couple of years, no one cares about a career break. And mine was in 2014. So no one cares at all.
What were you doing in 2014?
I quit life and went to all four corners of America when the Aussie dollar was stronger than the American.
Oh, wow.
I've got family in like Atlanta and Florida, so I stayed with them for a little bit, lived in San Diego, went to the NBA Finals, saw LeBron got his butt beaten by the San Antonio Spurs in Miami.
Yeah, awesome.
Road trip to Seattle, lived with a friend in New York for a while, partied in Phoenix, surfed as much as I could. Yeah, so it was good for my soul, good for corporate Tyler, trying not to be too corporate.
Yeah, it sounds like you did the opposite of quitting life. It sounded like you lent into life.
Yes, I quit my corporate life. I was way too serious in my young years about the perfect CV and financial progression. Came from a pretty we single mum, nurse, working part-time. We didn't have any money, so I was pretty cautious about making sure I could keep a rent, a roof above my head as a play. So and then back to the LinkedIn one, I describe each of my jobs. For each of the jobs, if you've got more than 10 bullet points, therefore dear Lord, calm it down. No one's going to read 10 bullet points. It doesn't need to be CV. Just give them 4 to 6 bullet points on what you do, right? Did management accounts, did month end, helped with the tax recs, ran a team of 6 people, fully responsible for year-end audit, whatever it is. Keep it nice and simple. No acronyms. I'm talking no acronyms, no HRMC, no SIPs. Your boss, Trent, or business partner, Trent, is absolute, he always uses the word TAM, and I called him out on the other day, and I was like, I think that's target active market, something like that. Is that what it is?
Yeah, it's a total acquirable market, I think.
Yeah, there we go.
I never use it. I refuse to use it.
So no acronyms, right? Don't make people guess. And then get down to your education, put in the years, that type of stuff. It helps people judge your experience levels.
There we go. Total addressable market.
There we go. Thanks, Trent. And so, I work on that LinkedIn, and then I focus on one value post. I get people to write one value post and send it to me with a photo. And I'm just usually nope, you're talking about yourself, right? And then they come back and I'm like, nope. And I remember this. I've got a friend who's been in marketing for years, and he opened a business in 2013, and he was petering along the bottom of $30,000 revenue per year as a side hustle, and then boom, $300,000 because he started focusing on value. And he was like, stop, don't even think about writing about yourself, write about others, and write it in a way that can be scanned and read really quickly. If you can do it in video format, do it. So I start people focusing on one thing. And then second, so let's say you're in your 60 days.
Yeah.
Then you want to start thinking about volume, right? You've done your basics. You've done one post, right? Get rid of time pressure. Time doesn't matter. No one cares if they hear from you on LinkedIn or don't. The worst thing I see is people going, "Hey guys, you haven't heard from me in a while." No one
my
cares.
Gosh.
Right? Yeah, no one cares, right?
Yeah. It's like I followed you because like, or we're connected because like I met you once. Like I'm not actively keeping up. I'm not subscribed. So there's no like expectation that you're posting 5 times a day. You can, but if you miss, no one went, "Where's Chad's post? It's 12 o'clock."
I know. No one cares. And like that's our level of self-importance we need to leave is, and take the pressure off. Like also the algorithm doesn't play like that. Like you can post every single day, especially TikTok. Like, I've heard TikTok is for finding new customers. Instagram is for fostering new customers. Facebook is for finding boomers and taking their money. And then I know, it's good. LinkedIn is for connecting with customers and adding value is where you get. So the best play I kind of see there is like in those 30, 60 days, start writing content, right? I kept an app on like a notes app on my phone open on the homepage, and I just had Tyler's content ideas. And I'll be honest, I was working in a partnership for a year, and it wasn't well run. Like I quickly realized I was going to out earn the 2 equity partners that had been in business for 30 years. And I was like, I could, if they gave me the reins, I could triple their money. But like no one wants to give like a young upstart. I wasn't that young, I was 40, but like an upstart, ex-CFO like reins to a business. And so I just did the basics, and then I just started writing down my frustrations. And then as soon as I wrote down the frustrations, I came back to them next day and turned them into a positive. So no one wants to hear a complainer. Everyone wants to hear value. So if there is a frustration, there is a value in the fix.
I love that. Can we meditate on that a little bit longer? Because I see rants kick off because people love that someone else said the thing, right? They're complaining, I didn't have to say it. How do you take a negative, a pain point, and turn it into value?
Yeah, I'll give you an example. Is probably the best way to do it, and it takes time. This has been the essence to our branding, is think about it hard. So a good one for me at the moment is like connection issues. So Zoom, Teams is we're on Riverside right now, which is pretty smooth. Zencaster absolutely drives me insane on podcasts, but every single person has. Yeah, you've been there, right?
Well, I had to reschedule my call last night with another guest because Riverside wasn't being well behaved. But yeah, absolutely, connection is a big issue.
So what the feel is in connection is a loss of momentum, a loss of flow, a loss of time, and a sense of time being wasted. And if we think about momentum, the most important time people learn about momentum is when they're dating. Is if you're texting back and forth with someone or talking or calling or seeing them, and then things go quiet, you lose momentum, people lose interest. And there's critical moments in life, it's usually around dating where people like, yep, we're a couple, we're together or we're not. And it's very similar in sales on that type of pitch is if you've got momentum and you've got good back and forth and communication expectations with a client or a lead, then that happens. And so it's the same when we're using tech. So if we lose momentum because of tech and like the start of a meeting, 10 minutes of the meeting is disrupted, you start to lose it. And also the end is where you lose it. So I heard a really great sentence is how it ends is how it was, which means if you've had it's really good sentence, right? I can't remember the guy.
Oh, I got to hang on to that.
Yeah. So if you've had a great day and it ends poorly, might be a bad day. If you've had a great meeting with someone and it ends badly because of tech or someone's like, I've got to go, Chad, I'm out, right? It doesn't leave a good feeling. So, really thinking about the start and finish of flow of good tech. So if I thought about that process, right, I thought, all right, now I've got a frustration. How do I turn it into positive? And I talk about, here's what I've loved, what's happened in the market. We now can walk into a meeting 1 minute before wearing a pair of shorts that no one knows we're wearing shorts or pants or, if they can tell if we're wearing a shirt. They don't know our background because we can fuzzy our background. So appreciate where we've come from, right? Understand that like we used to have to drive to a client site for an hour and a half, be in a suit, prepped with a whole bunch of paper, turn up to their boardroom 20 minutes before, make sure the tech works, spend 15 minutes getting the tech right, go to the bathroom, get some water, order a coffee, start the meeting 10 minutes late. And you're like, oof. Now I can literally walk into a sales meeting 1 minute. So I'm like, okay, appreciate that we've come from a positive. So I talk about that positive. Then in that, I'm like, now here's where I want to see the market go, right? Zoom, if I open your app one more time and you say I'm updating, I'll quit and go to Teams really quickly. The time to update your app is not when I'm opening it, right? The time to update your app is 3 a.m.
Or post-call or something. Just not right now.
Not right now, right? So I always mix. I make sure I appreciate the world we're in. I make sure I appreciate the benefits we've got, the tech we've got, and then I throw in a little bit of things where I'd like the market to move. So I'm not just complaining, but I'm also setting a perspective that, hey, it's like these are first world problems, but they are real problems. And they are very important for like sales. Like if you mess up the start of a meeting, you could miss $1 million client because the CEO is like, I'm not waiting 15 minutes anymore. I'm going to find another consultant that can actually use Teams.
Are you a gratitude guy? Do you meditate? Do you journal? Is this something that is true of you outside of a content strategy?
Deep question. Yes, I meditate often. I'm big on a positive impact in the world. I left audit for business services because I didn't like the looks people gave me when I came into audit. But on a personal level, I'm big on being a positive influence in the world. I try to make the best of the time I've got. I try to have a sense of peace in the process. Like I love the process. Like I'm enjoying this chat. I like the ability, even though it's about me, I know, but like I enjoy the ability to share. And if there's two people that can actually take something away on a personal level or on a work level, I'm for it. And I try to, like, I'm in a really heavy negotiation right now on a personal level, like, with it's really with our office rent. And, the landlord's very emotional about it. And I'm like, hey, I'm not trying to make your life bad. Like, we're just making a simple business decision. I'm grateful for the opportunity we've had to rent, and like, I think if I come back to the gratitude side, I don't journal, but I stick to key ethics of fairness, equality, professional behavior without stuffy professional behavior, and like really trying to look after your community. And that can be the person sitting next to you, the person across the table, the person you see at the coffee shop. But just try not to make the world a worse place. Yeah, man, it really sits in my soul, and it probably just makes me a happy person.
I feel like I get this sense from you that this values-driven, this peace vibe really kind of flows through a lot of the work that you do. Do you find that the processes and the work and the clients and the collaborations follow suit because you kind of set the tone, or are you kind of hamstringing a peacefulness into high stress situations that feels inappropriate sometimes?
Yeah, we very much know the time to hustle and the time to chat is the play. Part of my job in every one of our projects is to make sure that the delivery deadlines are hit, and we've got strict delivery deadlines, like payroll days for 2,500 staff are payroll days for 2,500 staff, and they can't be messed up. We've helped businesses go through those processes, and it's important that you acknowledge where you are in the process and what the meeting's for. I'm big on good relationships. I'm big on working side by side. I'm big on working as a team. If the client is in the approach that they're with us, and they like working in that way, then, we usually work together really well. If a client like tries to talk down to me, or especially if they talk down to one of my staff, like, they're the boss, they get a kind of private warning from me. Like, we're equals, we're here to help, but like, we're not your slaves. And also I always am really careful about, could I ask you to please do X, rather than Chad, please do Y, or Chad, do X by 5 p.m., So I really try to put a level of hustle with professionalism, but also it is 100% my job. No, it's not my job. It's one of my skill sets is taking the pressure out of high pressure situations, and making sure people are focusing on the right things and not blowing up a meeting because of emotional fears and that. And, if someone does get really fearful, and emotions come out, like I might just bring them to the side and be like, hey, let's have a chat. It's okay. Like we'll get through this together. If I have to put 10 people on this project tomorrow, well, eight, I haven't got 10. we will get this done and we'll do it together and it will be right. So really trying to de-risk that process to alleviate the fears. And because when you're in a fearful state, you don't have kindness, you don't have empathy. You're very internal. So you need to get out of a high cortisol, high fear state to have high level intelligence and understanding of the whole process. Because you only understand the whole process when you see it from the other people's view. And that might be a tech supplier, that might be your payroll officer, that might be, us, your consultants, or that might be your CEO. So you need to be in that state. So I really try to help people be optimal through those things and, be their best version to an extent that you can.
Before you used a dating analogy when you were telling a story about tech systems and connection, and you really got me. I really love the analogy. It really kind of brought me along for the journey. Have you found storytelling and storytelling tactics like analogy to be a natural thing to you? Are you a natural storyteller, or is this a skill that you've developed using things? Well, pardon me. Usually I
I've still got you. There's no photo there.
Yeah, I might start again. Usually I don't mind if it's you talking, I drop out, but yeah. So before you used a dating analogy when talking about connection issues with Zoom and tech and all that. And it really brought me along for the journey. And I really followed, oh, wow, I care about this tech story because you told me this universal truth about a dating story. Do you find things like analogy and other storytelling tactics a natural fit for you? Are you a natural storyteller, or have you done some work to find tactics that resonate with you and can help bolster your stories?
Yeah, I'll tell you what my girlfriend says often is
Right.
She says I'm much funnier in writing than I am in person. So like I appreciated it because
Thanks,
it's true.
honey.
Yeah, I'm pretty good after I've got time to think. Like I love a story, but I'm much better at writing prose and thinking about something and connecting the dots rather than, just up on stage. Like I love a chat, but like I can I can really add some good humor or some like good connections in a post if I've got 10 minutes to write it rather than off the cuff.
That's a big skill. Writing comedy, writing any, maybe you don't look at it as comedy, but writing anything that's funny is a pretty impressive skill.
I love it, man. Like if we haven't got humor, we have nothing, right? Like this over July, like I probably had 3 of the hardest work days of my life when, a couple payroll days, like they got really intense, like there was, I think I had 80% errors of one system in some tax numbers. Yeah. And I was like, God damn, like I'm manually going to have to calculate everything, aren't I? So like for me, that's a post happening, right? I had a big pain, I need to go, what's the positive of this? What's the pain point? That type of stuff. And so while I think about writing the post, I'm also trying to think about subtle humor. I'm trying to think about connecting to people on a personal level. I love a story. I've found stories don't go very well on LinkedIn because they can get a little waffly. If someone starts a thing as, here's a picture of me as a kid. When I was a kid, everyone's just like scroll, like next, like no one.
I need to learn that lesson. That's my tactic. I agree.
And so you've got to kind of get to the point really quick so people can understand what you're posting. But when I'm doing long form content or when I'm coaching I help startup, right? Like I do it for free. It's kind of like my gift to the accounting world, as help get them on the right system, teach them about what BAS is, what GST is, what's deductible, kind of what's not, to an extent. I'm not a tax agent, but I can kind of guide people about, what is smart to do and what is not. And so I do that with stories. I'm like, here's what I do in my business. So, and here's why. So I kind of tell them, and then I tell them, when someone starts to make a lot of money, right? They're starting to make $500,000, $1 million in profit per year. They come to me for like tax planning, or like not even tax planning, but like profit planning. So what do I do with the money? Do I send it all to me? Right. And I'm like, if you do this, you're probably going to get taxed at a personal rate. Right. Here's what I do. Here's what other clients I've seen with this beautiful problem do. Right. So I tell them a story and an analogy, and I try to guide them down the path that's the best for them. Because as soon as someone can take what seems like a complex problem with like 100, petals of a flower that they can choose from, to go, okay, like I've maybe got 3 that I need to choose from. Here's the pros and cons of each, and I'm going to choose this one because of this. You're really starting to empower people to what I call making business simple. And that's our tagline of the business. The bean count is making business simple, is how to take all this complexity of accounting and finance and payments and tax and company structures and trusts and rental properties, and just be like, hey, like, here's what you need to focus on, and here's the way we do it. And so I do that a lot by storytelling.
Yeah, there's a lot of power in clarity and getting rid of all the unnecessary things to do, because we can get distracted by shiny object syndrome. We can get distracted by everything is urgent all the time. Everything's got a deadline. But what are the 2 or 3 things that really matter?
I agree. I've got a bit of shiny toy syndrome. Like, I really love like a new revenue stream. Like, we do some sales training for some founders now and then, like, just to help them listen rather than talk is probably the best way to put it, like, and so
love that.
Yeah, I'm really, I do think it's important to, like, adapt and do new things, but it's also super important to, like, we always say, most money soonest. So do the work that is highest priority, that is an existing client now. So existing clients that have signed up, that are paying the bills, they get the first amount of work, and then, new clients, that usually feeds to me, that those turn into night work for me. So it's not uncommon for me to send out a proposal 11 o'clock at night, because the team and I have been working during the day.
I've recently read Brené Brown's Dare to Lead, and it's interesting how many of your values and the things you're saying are really tied into the courageousness of leaders and the daring to be courageous as a leader. I even just love what you just said, and it's almost a direct quote from a book, is learn to listen with the same passion that you have in the need to be heard, which is fantastic. You've just said, like, quoted half of a book in the last 30 minutes. It's fantastic.
Yeah. She's awesome, Brené Brown. Like, I've probably got 4 or 5 people that, like, I've read everything, or I'm a listener is the best way to put it. Like, I listen to all the podcasts. Yeah. I'm just a slow reader, man. Like,
me too.
Yeah. But, I've listened to every TED Talk she's done, like every podcast she's done, I've listened to. But Simon Sinek has been really, really good on that type of stuff. He talks a lot about listening as well. And I even teach that to my team, coming back to meeting flow. Our goal in every meeting is to listen first, right? And there's a hack that I've learned on this, is a lot of accountants now are moving into fixed fees and monthly fees, which means their goal is to kind of deliver the product for the lowest time cost, which means if a client is waffling, they will dive back into the delivery and what they need quickly. So they start to lose momentum and relationship. And so because we're hourly, like, if a client wants to, like, have a long chat, we'll have a long chat, but, like, it's recordable time. But, like, if someone's talking to me about their dog, for 15 minutes, I'm not going to record that time as billable, but, like, maybe my team will, because, like, they've turned up to the meeting to do it, right? So I think it's really important that we structure our businesses to be able to foster relationships now that they're remote, a lot of them, so that we can listen. It's really important that we do not start sentences, when someone's 80% finished. And then the other one I've really been teaching my team, and this is, I think, the most important, is when a client starts talking or someone else in the meeting starts talking, we shut up. Like all of us and me, like if one of my team members starts talking when I'm talking, I will shut up straight away. Like the last thing we want on like a client call is two people over talking each other, because you go from one person being heard, not to two, to zero people being heard. And you lose flow, and the client's looking at you going, what is this? This is just malarkey. So
I'm really quite fond of this idea. I think communication skills are really quite foundational to all the work that we're talking about: personal branding, thought leadership, and I guess a background of me, it's something that I've actually quite struggled with over time. I grew up with a hearing deficit and the need for hearing aids, and so communication's always been quite a bit of a struggle for me. And you saying now, don't start speaking when others are speaking, you've made me kind of go, oh man, I got some work to do. and I'm hosting a podcast. It's hilarious.
I was going to say that, man, because you actually do this well. Like flow is one of the most important things. Like where did you hone this skill? Like the asking questions is like, it's a skill I have. Like I know how to ask questions to figure out if someone needs our assistance. Like where did you hone the skill to be able to extract this type of value? Because that's actually a really important value for accountants, finance people, investors, business owners.
Well, that's really thoughtful of you to say. It is something that I always feel I'm behind on because of what I mentioned before, those challenges previously. I am a big listener as well. I love podcasts. I love audiobooks. I love those things. And I think for me, I am aware that time is valuable to people. And so if I have the opportunity, the privilege to have someone with me, I better be asking questions that are of value, but also a listener as well. I hate personally listening to a podcast where it's just a chat, and I go, well, cool. Well, that's two people I don't know talking about something I'm kind of interested in. Like, yep. I want to get to the end of this podcast and go, well, those two people I didn't know, but like Tyler gave me something really profound that I can work on. I really care about Tyler and what Tyler's journey is now. And I'll listen to the parts that aren't full of value because there was something that I got out of it. And so hopefully I can turn that feeling that I have when I listen to content into some value here. And I really appreciate you saying that. Thank you.
That's actually, there's something gold there that I think, especially leaders in sales meetings or in remote work, if you're running projects or accounting deliveries with, clients that you're not sitting next to, is listen to podcasts. A good podcast flow and a guest that can understand when to talk, how long to talk for, when the host kind of interrupts or doesn't interrupt, when they let them go. That's actually been probably one of my best learnings in understanding, meeting flow, sales flow is, I can quickly get onto a podcast and go, this isn't A grade quality, and I've been listening to one basketball podcast for 20 years. Well, not
wow.
20 years. Yeah, I think so I think I've been on them for about 15 years, but they've been going for 20 years.
That's incredible.
Yeah, they were one of the first. They were the first basketball podcast for sure.
What's the
Canada.
podcast?
It's called No Dunks, but it used to be the Starters and the Basketball Jones.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like a couple Canadian guys. Used to be an Aussie on there who quit, but for good reasons. Like he just wanted to do something else with his life. And they just had great flow. Like it was fun. It was great listening to. But as you said, there were pockets there. And that's exactly what remote meetings are now. Like they're just people kind of talking on screen, and so like listening to those. So if you've got a team member that, is struggling, like, especially if you've got a youngin that is struggling to like know when to talk in meetings or when not to talk, potentially they're too quiet or they're too chatty. Like, I think, having people listen to podcasts is actually a really good way to start understanding that, and then listen to one together and ask them, what did you think? Who talked the most? Who didn't? Where was the value to you? And so it's a good way to kind of test their ability to operate in a client meeting without having to do it on clients.
I'm quite a massive fan of theatre and musical theatre.
Nice.
And the way I kind of look at, say, a podcast and interview situation is very similar to, you'd look at like a live stage show. Or I used to play in a band, and so same thing with like playing music is you can know your lines, you can know how you're going to turn up, the type of conversation you want to have. You might have the script, but what if something went wrong? You need to be present enough, whether it's a sales call, especially a sales call, a client call with maybe it's just doing your weekly updates, your monthly updates with the client. But if you're on stage, on a Broadway stage, and something goes wrong and you can't adapt, you can't improv, you're not present enough to carry that conversation or that scene forward, then the script was worthless. It didn't matter in the end because the experience of someone watching or being involved in it wasn't seamless, or you didn't pick up the ball that was thrown to you.
I'm really big on the ability to run a meeting that adds value to the client. So we've got like a couple foundational rules in our business, which is like do it once, do it right, return every piece of communication within 24 hours. If you're not sure, if you're nervous, or you haven't delivered something, communicate first, deliver second. Don't deliver first, communicate second. That's like a clutch mistake of accountants. We go quiet when we haven't delivered because we lose a sense of value because we tag delivery to value, which is interesting, but we do it. And then coming back to like meeting flow, a lot of our accountants, our team members used to come into meetings with like their own agendas. And then what you realize is we are not paying them for the meeting, they're paying us. Right. So we come in with like a loose agenda, right? And I always kind of have 3 to 5 things that I want to talk through. But I always start every meeting with, hello, how you doing? And then also, I usually start with the leader and I'm like, hey, person X, what do you want to cover today? I've got 3 or 4 things that I want to go through, but like, what's on your hit list for this meeting? And so I quickly turn the meeting from not about my delivery, but about, their needs, right? And I quickly go, okay, of those 4 things, right, I've got 2 of them. How about we address the number 3 and 4 first, and then we'll come back to mine at the end if there's time. And they're like, yep, that's perfect. Or no, I want to do this one first because this is important to me. So coming back to that improv thing, it's a really important in all those like meetings to manage the way people perceive you. And that is really your personal brand. That is, are you there to add value, or are you there just to tick a box and tell them about what their profit and loss is? Because maybe that's not the most important thing in this meeting that we need to go through.
Yeah, I like that you mentioned personal branding, that part. I'm of the belief that personal branding doesn't need to be on stage. It doesn't need to be on a podcast. Personal branding, I think, is a smaller part of the picture. I think thought leadership is where you kind of go out to the world and you kind of start to pour gasoline on the fire. But personal branding can be quite intimate. It can be one-to-one, and it doesn't stop after a sale. And I like that your personal brand can turn up in a meeting with a client, and how you turn up and how you interact and engage with someone on just a relationship level.
Yeah, I agree. I think we've got to look at every opportunity of what type of person we are, in a meeting with 1-on-1, 1-on-10, or, if you're lucky enough, you might get a 1-on-500 on stage one day, or, if your LinkedIn post gets enough reach. We're starting a new business, like a tech training business, or like, I suppose a system training business for one specific product very soon. So we're about to open TikTok accounts, and I've been writing that marketing for about a year and a half now.
Wow.
Yeah, man. I've got my notes app I've got over 400 points that I cover.
Yeah, great.
So yeah, I'm going to have to now move from Tyler's written posts to Tyler's video posts, and I struggle, man. Like it's going to be a play, but like it's going to, instead of being a mid to large size business market, with we're really working in a 1-inch niche that's a mile deep. I'm really going to be working in a larger market with a bit more SEO and that type of stuff. So I'm going to need higher outreach market, and that's what TikTok is for. Like I might need to buy a new phone to do it, so my data stays private, but that's part of life. Yeah.
I like that you're coming up with these ideas, the video ideas, yourself with your brain, and not hey, ChatGPT, give me 400 ideas for an audience. That's fantastic.
Yeah, I can sniff ChatGPT out most of the time. I've got one of my clients, every time he's a tech provider, but I help him with his tech. Like we do a bit of product manager work now and then for like Xero apps. And, every time he and I are working on a client together, I can tell when he writes back using ChatGPT, and I'm like, mate, did you mean what you said? That didn't quite make sense. Like it made sense, but maybe it's not the way you usually wrote. So
yeah,
you've got to, there is still a market here for that type of stuff. But, the AI generation, if we look at like, the model industry online is like, it's at risk, like
absolutely.
they've got fake models now everywhere.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Yeah, I think regardless of if it's authentic content or AI content, the power often is in the edit, is how do you say something simply? How do you say it even simpler? But no simpler than that. Like, say it simply, but no simpler, and don't overcomplicate things.
There's a play there. I heard something about, because TikTok is about reach, LinkedIn is about connection, Instagram is about fostering. That TikTok, you need to immediately get to value. Instagram, you need to immediately talk to them and why it's important to them. And then LinkedIn, you can tell a little bit more of a story, because LinkedIn's still a higher written market than video market. And so, you've got to know what you're posting on social medias if you're really working on your brand. Like, there's a way to get mass outreach, and TikTok you need no introduction. You need, hey guy, you don't need, hey guys, it's Tyler here. You just need to open the camera and start talking is the difference.
Yeah, it's fantastic. It's good to tailor your message for different platforms and different people. The way I kind of always think about it is that the way I talk to my grandmother is different to the way I talk to my friends and joke around with my friends. It's still authentic to me, but it's appropriate for that environment. And I see a lot of people saying like, oh, but I don't talk like this way, or I'm not a social media person. It's like, yes, but like you can play in different avenues or different areas and still be authentically you, but be different and tailor your message.
Yeah, bang on.
Yeah. Well, Tyler, thank you so much. I really appreciate all the insight and value, wisdom. This has been fantastic. Is there anywhere that people can find you, follow along the Tyler story? You've got content coming out all the time. Where's the best place people can find you?
Yeah, we're solely on LinkedIn as a business. It all comes from my account, Tyler Caskey at the Bean Counters. Our website's www.thebeancounters.com.au. But, if anyone wants to reach out, welcome to connect on LinkedIn. Like, I love a chat. And, also if you're a finance professional that, wants a bit of a hand, like you're stuck and just want to know an opinion on, which app to choose, which is your favorite expense app, or those types of things. Sometimes, like, I can kind of help, a bunch of accountants, go down a path that might save them 5 or 6 hours if we just have a chat. So myself and my business partner, like, honestly, we love those chats because we've got a lot of opinions on, what are our favorite apps and why. And it might be price, it might be usability. So yeah, LinkedIn's still our best. And honestly, I enjoy that place. So if anyone's on here, don't hesitate to reach out and say hi.
Yeah, great. Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Chad.
Tyler, mate, thank you. That was fantastic. What a chat.